I know that Mr. Hoover was, and has expressed he was shocked that in fact the remains were found that close to where they were looking.
Okay, wow, you just dropped something out there. When was the first time that Mr. Casey had, when you say it was searched before by Mr. Casey?
Well, I cannot specifically say it was searched by Mr. Casey prior to November the 14th. It's my understanding, based on what our conversation was with law enforcement, that that area had been searched
by others. I see.
But I can tell you that after November the 15th, Mr. Casey told Mr. Hoover that he himself went back at least 2 more times to search.
Alone?
Presumably alone. It wasn't with Mr. Hoover.
Did Mr. Casey ever tell Mr. Hoover that Mr. Casey went there with the Anthony family? Any members of the Anthony family?
He did not say that.
Can we safely assume that if he was working for the defense, Mr. Casey, up until October, that this information he got was not gotten at that time, but rather after that from some other source? I don't know what assumption you can make from all of that. To me, it's extraordinarily significant that on all prior contacts, Mr. Casey expressed optimism that the child would be found alive. And that on the particular day where he called Mr. Hoover, his statement was, "I know where Caylee is, and she's dead." So I don't know what assumptions you can make based on that information, but I thought it was a pretty significant remark. And Mr. Casey never told Mr. Hoover, even if you don't tell me, but did Mr. Casey ever tell Mr. Hoover where Mr. Casey got that information?
To protect the integrity of the police investigation, I don't want to answer that question.
Well, if you don't, I'm not asking to know who it was, but just did Mr. Casey ever tell Mr. Hoover where he got that information?
I can't confirm that now. I cannot confirm that based on what was discussed here today.
Anything else I didn't think?
No, and I don't want to be too cryptic about it, but I think the information that was provided today was helpful to law enforcement, and I think that they are going to follow up whatever leads they have.
The video that you handed over, how long was the tape? Like how many minutes worth of it?
Approximately 10 minutes worth of video.
And that was on the 15th?
No, the video covers the 14th and the 15th activities.
So they went out there on the 14th, but did
15th and 16th videos. I'm sorry.
Now the 14th was just a phone call?
The 14th represented a telephone call from Mr. Casey to Mr. Hoover asking that he meet him at his office.
Okay, so then he met on the next day.
Next morning.
And then they went from there.
And it was on that next morning that Mr. Casey revealed that he knew where Caylee was and that she was dead.
Can you just again on a personal level what his reaction was when he said that?
Well, he's upset. I mean, he's been upset since the start of this. Today he was visibly upset in retelling the story to law enforcement, and he was at least grateful that he had the opportunity to turn this over because it may be of some interest to them.
Is it fair to say that he really didn't think it was initially because they didn't find anything?
Well, yes, that is fair to say because they had followed up on so many different tips or leads. The significance of this is that it's the first time that it was ever relayed to him that the child was dead and that someone knew where the child could be found.
I'm going to ask one other obvious question is, to get information like that and then to not pass it along until almost a month later or more than that, I mean, can you give a reason why?
Oh, I can give you a very simple explanation. Yeah, absolutely, a very simple explanation. There were several tapes that were used over the course of several days. It was Mr. Hoover's impression that he had turned over all of the tapes that detailed the activities on these days. On December the 30th, while preparing to leave town, he was putting together a package with videotapes and a camera, and he discovered this tape. Immediately, he made contact to attempt to turn in the tape, and it was facilitated by Mr. Schaefer in getting this done today.
But I mean, as far as getting information, possible information from Mr. Casey back in November, that could be where, even though I know they didn't find anything, so I'm trying, you know.
Well, I understand your question, and I think I can answer it this way. During this period of time, there apparently have been so many people who have been using this case as an opportunity to get before a television camera, or for some other mercenary reason, that a lot of the pieces to this puzzle are not shared. So, candidly, I would suggest that the information, at least based on what you asked me earlier, the information provided by Mr. Padilla is not correct. That Mr. Padilla is wrong, and Mr. Padilla...
Well, no, I'm not, I guess, well, you know what, stop.